Today's number, guys, is going to absolutely blow your mind. $130 an ounce for physical silver currently trading in the Japanese markets. And that's a big difference when you take a look at the paper contracts at just $72. So what exactly gives in one of the largest arbitrage events we've ever seen recorded in history? And how is it already happening just a few days into 2026? As financial markets start to show signs of extreme weakness, we need to discuss what we talked about in our last video. The idea that we were going to see this extreme volatility and that would likely affect the paper contracts. Why is that, and why could it continue into this year? More importantly than maybe anything though, is what's in store for, of course, the S&P 500. The most important market in the world has now got some massive dark pool trades on it. And it could spell a very interesting point here for the most important month of the year. Yes, January is upon us again, guys, and it means we need to look at the stats, the data, and everything to do with stocks, commodities, and cryptos right now. To the charts, and first up, we'll have a look here at the S&P 500. You guys can see the advanced decline line has gone down a little bit. That's because, of course, we lost that breadth, as Subu Trade pointed out. But you'll notice here that we're still very dull in terms of just making higher highs. We haven't made a lower low. So in general, the markets are still bullish in terms of structure. So have a look at the US 500 in terms of options. You can in terms of options and futures. Futures trading is pretty much just stuck around those highs. Nothing bad looking there, guys. Now the interesting part. What is going on in the options world? Puts everywhere. Look at all these puts. So many people trying to position short here into the start of the year. So we've got 6,900, which is starting to show up as a put. Kind of pointing towards bullishness into maybe the first day of the trading year. But you'll notice that in general, you can see here 6,800 is going to most likely be the put level to hold up. So 6,800 seems to be the put wall. And generally speaking, the market has a lot of puts in it. So it may pay for Wall Street not to allow the market underneath that. And if it does, it could create, again, a waterfall effect. So generally, the structure still looks bullish. Nvidia managed to break through the 185, which is strong. Obviously, it is still heading towards positive gamma. And Tesla, I've got to say, congratulations, guys. The last trade obviously took us into just under 500, which you would have seen, 498, beautiful stuff. And now we're back at 450, which is around the put wall. So we'll see how market interacts with that. IBIT, this is, of course, the all-important 47.5, which is equivalent to around 56,000-ish kind of area. And at the moment, we're trading, 86,000-ish, we're trading around that kind of 40, 49, 65. So we're basically still stuck between positive and negative gamma. We're effectively gamma neutral. When it comes to gold and 400 is the big put wall, which I think gold hasn't quite gone the same as some of the other metals. So it's interesting to see everyone's on silver now, and just shows you got to be early on these pairs. We were on silver way earlier than most people out there, and it has paid off big time in 2025. Right now it's incredibly volatile, but just remember, when everyone's looking at it, most of the easy gains have already gone. And I will say that there's clearly some shenanigans at work with the options and with the discrepancy here between physical and non-physical silver. Like, there's some wild stuff going on. This is going to be an interesting shakeout. Now let's have a look at the US dollar. So it is in currently decline. It's obviously making a series of lower highs and lower lows. Certainly watching the 98.40, which we had in our previous video. So we're going to be watching that level very, very closely. And if we go over here to the US 10-year, you'll notice that we're starting to see that inflation story potentially come back, or at least long-term yields come back with less cuts on the expectation. Now, if you have a look here at the US 30Y, you're going to notice the long yields have already broken out and created inverse head and shoulders. So they're suggesting that in 2026, we're actually going to see long yields go up more. And you'll notice if we actually break that through, that we're getting to about 5% on the 30 years. So this is suggesting that the 20-year, the 30-year, the 10-year, the ones that the market makes are all going to go higher, and that the shorter yields are going to probably stabilize. Only 2 cuts expected this year, even in light of that story. There's obviously a ton of cuts across the board. In Sector Watch, many different things going on, but I thought I'd bring up here the equal weighted healthcare market. Interesting to see it back to its previous highs of 2021. And of course, if this breaks out, it's just more in line with defensive rotation. So do remember that will be a story that we must talk about if it does happen in 2026, as that could be starting to talk really about late cycle investing. US oil, no updates here, guys. We're still stuck at this range. No break to the upside. And you can see each rally's been rejected. So oil will be an interesting one, but it may mean that at least the pump gas is cheaper for your Christmas and New Year travels. So that's kind of good for a lot of you out there, I'm sure. Let's have a look here at gold price. Went up, went down. Not really too concerned about gold price. I think that it still looks pretty good. Come back to the daily 20. And what you're going to notice is when you look at some of these, there's gold. Copper obviously hit our resistance, our kind of major first target, and then it's pulled back down. And you're going to see a lot of these things have hit kind of key zones. Now, silver went up so much, it couldn't really come back down to the key support yet, but we have seen $70 act a little bit. You'll notice it went down, it rallied up huge, and then it's come back down. I don't think silver's the easiest trade right now. It's quite difficult. Long-term hodlers, probably not too concerning. Short-term though, when you get a bump like this, and then you get a sell-off like that, and then you get a rally like this, and everyone's eyes are on it, that can mean that it is a very low probability style trade though. So it means that there's probably more volatility to come and there could be more risks on the horizon. Let's have a look at platinum for a second, because interestingly, platinum, if you look at the daily, actually went back to the daily 20 as well. So this got collapsed 20% since our last video. And it's really the shenanigans we've talked about several times before. The paper contracts are pretty wild. And when things get this volatile, there's powerful forces at play. So we're going to have to continue tracking those. But I would say things like platinum have come down to support lines. Gold has, copper kind of did, and silver has come back to that area it's found previous bounces at. So all eyes are on exactly this, pretty much $70 to $71 an ounce for silver. It kind of has to hold it, or we're going a little bit lower. And just remember there are, very powerful forces here clearly playing out. NVIDIA, not bad, double bottom base here, guys. One of our stories was that this is an important level at 170. It managed to hold it. It based. It came up. Kind of looks pretty strong here for NVIDIA, so it still looks pretty good on charts. And of course, we have this 445 currently sitting on Tesla. So right around that put support. Be interested to see if a bid comes off here. But congrats if you took 495 or 498. That was excellent trading. On to Chinese markets. We're getting information coming out that China's been pumping some serious liquidity. No surprises. Interesting breakout level potentially coming soon. So we'll be watching that. 26,250. Put an alert on that level. Pretty important zone. And NASDAQ is still doing the same thing. It's not short, nor is it really anything. It's just going in the direction of general bullish trend, at least for now. Now, we often said when the most interesting chart's on, then it's not usually the best thing. But Bitcoin has been interesting now for 2 months. And guess what? It's done absolutely nothing. But we still have the key levels, 90,800, where we're going to possibly start a squeeze. And then, of course, 94.5, guys, key levels, and 86,000 on the bottom. And you saw it clearly before. These two levels hold the liquidity. So that's going to be where the traps are set and where the liquidity is going to start. Everything in here is so neutral. It could be bullish or bearish. We just don't know quite yet. And that's why we often say patience, react, don't predict. Do we get any other information from the other markets in everything to do with crypto? Not really. Nothing going on here with Ethereum or any of those others. So we're not quite getting any extra information from those. And I thought I'd just quickly touch here on small caps for a moment. There's nothing really going on either with small caps just yet. The market's going to fire up now that we're through the Christmas New Year break.